I've just had a meeting with my business bank, Synovus they're called. Interesting name. And I did that because in order to enroll in online banking, they have to do a visual verification of sorts, so you can't just click a button on an interface and then you get online access. It is, you have to walk into a branch, they fill out paperwork and all that. I've had this account for 7 years really, ever since, 7 years, since 2012 when we moved here, and I opened that with a small bank that I believe was called the Great Florida Bank, and they were in our neighborhood. We had this local branch there close on 11th Street, I think it was, 11th and West Avenue, and that was perfect. It was kind of convenient, and that's why we opened the account. But then what happened a few years after that, because that's one of those things with banks, isn't it? Once you've set up what you need, so an account where people can pay you and debit cards that you don't really want but they give you anyway, that sort of thing, and online access so that you can check balances and all that from Google and Apple and all these people. They want to pay, and Amazon, they will pay directly into an account. And that was all set up, that was all working fine, and a couple of years later they were bought or merged with someone else, and that was then from 2014 onwards. It was something like the Florida Community Bank, or FCB, and nothing really changed other than the name, but they do send you new debit cards that you don't really want. Account number stays the same, all the details for people making deposits all stays the same, it's all good. And online banking still works all fine. Every once in a while there's a little bit of a hassle that when you haven't used it for 6 months you have to re-enroll or make a phone call for someone to reset God knows whatever. So that was all fine until about maybe 2-3 months ago, when it turns out, or maybe that's close to like 12 months ago when they've announced that they were merging with yet another bank. So within 7 years I've had the same account with technically 3 banks. That's super annoying when that happens, because with it comes all these things like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm your new business manager. Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to check in with you if there's anything we can do for you. Yeah, you could stop changing your name. That's a great idea. Could you not do that? And also, now that you've introduced yourself, Mr. Business Manager, when I need to make a phone call this time next year, will you still be around, or will you have moved on to bigger, better and other things? And more to the point, is the phone number worth saving, or will it have changed by the time I actually need to speak to you? So one of those things. Those are all the annoying things that come with it. But the good news is, so this time, now that it's Synovus, name changed again, online banking no longer works and the system has changed. And for that I had to go and walk into a branch and say, hello, I'm this guy from this account. I have a check that I want to pay in, but more importantly, can I have access to my thing online so that I can in the future just snap a picture of the check, all that. So I did that, and it took maybe an hour and a half, while Julia and I cycled over the Venetian Causeway here. Very, very nice cycle. And it was a really nice chat with a friendly guy called Patrick Jean-Jacques. He was very nice, took care of us, signed me up for a new online banking thing, and could deposit the check. Turns out he's going to London with his friend in like 6 months or so, 3 months or so. And he was asking, hey, so you guys are from London, where do we stay? So we had a little chat about that. Very, very nice, chilled out conversation. We got a really good vibe there. And this is kind of a bank that was, I think it's a new bank that bought 2 other things and just merged them all together or something along those lines. So they're in a new office in a building that currently receives a facelift, and it's nice to walk in there. And we saw a few other banks in there. So one of them was BB&T. We don't personally use that, but that's actually a bank rather than a bakery. Don't know what BB&T actually stands for, but there's a few small banks in the lobby area there, and one of them surprisingly was HSBC, and that's the big bank, the big Chinese bank really, that we've been with for many years. I think Julia's been with them since they were the Midland Bank back in the day. So about 30 years or so. I've been with them for maybe 15 years. I've been with NatWest in the UK as well as HSBC there. And when we moved over here, we thought it was a good idea to get a US bank account before we move. And HSBC were the only people who made that relatively hassle-free. That's never an easy task. If you're in the UK and you want to open a bank account in a location where you don't actually live and you don't have proof of address and all that, that's really, really difficult to do. And HSBC, being the world's local bank, they made that possible. And so a year or two before we moved, we've had this account in place, and that really saved our asses a number of times when we were here, because money transfer was then, fairly easy and fairly streamlined. So, but the trouble is that HSBC isn't really a big local bank in the US. So if ever we do have an issue that requires us to pop into a store, or into a branch rather, that's really difficult because they don't have many branches. The other companies here, other banks have many, many branches, and it's really easy to go and pop in there, like TD Bank and City National and the other kind of smaller providers around here. What used to be Wachovia or Wachovia, that is now Wells Fargo. Those people, they have Citibank. Did I say Citibank? They're kind of the closest to us, so that we have a branch there. And Julia has a credit card account, I think, with them. We've always been thinking perhaps we should shift the business account there, because it's just much easier for us to pop into. Online banking works great and so forth. So we checked that out and thought, hey, now that the third name change on the business account has happened, perhaps we're just going to go and move the whole business account to Citibank. And while we're there, maybe we'll just abandon HSBC as well and, merge them all into one thing and be done with it. And of course, Citibank, we had a little discussion with somebody called Silvino, I believe, and he was all up for it, and he said, yeah, great, we'll give you free personal banking, and it's all awesome, and there'll be local branches, it's gonna be great. And we thought, yeah, but I still need to pay that check-in to my current business account, and I still need online access to the current business account, because there's some transactions that I need to account for in regards to my tax return. I need to see who's paid what and how much and when and all that. And so I thought I'm going to do this anyway, regardless if we're going to move to the business account to Citibank or not. When I say business account, we're not talking $250,000 monthly turnover there. We're talking more like, a couple $100 really. So anyway, so we went there today, we went there this morning, and we saw the building, which is kind of still half under renovation, construction, and it was just a really nice vibe we got there. And I'm glad we did it, because not only did Patrick take good care of us, we also now have a second branch that is in cycling distance from us, just in case we need to do anything, whatever it might be. So it's great. We have two banks in the same building, only a 20-minute, half-hour ride over the Venetian Causeway, and that's really all we need. And also, Synovus are a little bit cheaper when it comes to business banking. I don't know if you know this, but banking in the US is not free. I remember that back in Germany, even back in the UK, we had more or less free banking. As long as something is coming in and going out of your account every month, they're happy to give you a current account. I believe I have 2 UK bank accounts still, and they don't cost me a penny, which is really nice. Whereas in the US, and nowadays in Germany as well, it costs you anywhere between $3 to $5 to anything up to $25, $50 to do monthly banking. And often they waive the fee, because if you have X amount of money sitting in your account, they waive the fee, and that's usually something along the lines of $1,000 to $2,000. As long as that amount of money sits there so that they can work with it and you don't have to take it out, they give you free banking a month. But if you don't have that, then they charge you. So that's how it works. And with personal customers, that's one thing. But with business customers, the stakes are of course much higher. I remember inquiring about a business account with HSBC, because I thought, hey, I need a business account in the US, need to close the one in the UK down and so forth, keep the company going. And HSBC were like, yeah, no problem. So if you leave $50,000 in your business account there will waive the fee of $50 a month. And I was thinking, I'm not sure if my profit is $50 a month, my friend. I'd rather it wouldn't be eaten up by bank charges at the end of the month. Needless to say, we didn't go with HSBC for the business account. But hey, I guess they're just thinking bigger dimensions, higher turnover, everything that's not me, basically, they're thinking of. So I'm really glad that Synovus took care of us there. And because we got this nice little vibe going there, it is, Julia is ahead of me, so it is so nice that I think we're just going to stay there for a while, because I really like the idea of just having one combined access point there. In the shade, right? Yeah, very cool. I know you're so fast. What's happening? What did you eat? Are you not hungry? Is that protein shake?
Starving this morning. I had a protein shake.
And that just kept you going. So anyway, aside from the technical aspects of having to do this business account thing, it feels very much almost like a fresh start to the whole venture that I'm embarking on. And it feels nice to reconnect, almost like having to reconnect with something that I would usually not really take care of, and perhaps not even reevaluate. Like, you know, where do I bank? Where do I want to go? Can these people help me as I grow and all that? That usually if you're a small fry and you're not thinking of growing, isn't really important, because you're not thinking of getting to a point where eventually you'll make tons of money. And I don't really have that kind of mindset. And I think this is where it's going wrong. If you don't think it into reality, then it isn't going to happen. So this little kind of nudge almost to rethink my whole business attitude towards what I'm doing, rather than it being a hobby. I want for that to be a business. I want for that to sustain me and Julia on a monthly basis. And to that respect, it has to make a certain amount of cash. And if you think like that, I guess that's how it's going to happen. You know, I'm not sounding doubtful about this. It's true. If you put mechanisms in place that will sustain like $10,000 turnover a month, then eventually it's likely that you're going to achieve that. But if you never do that, if you always think about, hey, this is never going to make more than a couple $100 a month, and who cares really, then that is exactly what's going to happen. Nothing. And so I found it was a really interesting just thought process behind it, and I'm grateful for the fact that we had to reconnect with this thing and kick it off with a beefy check that had to be paid into the business account. So hopefully in a few days time I'll have full access. I can have a look what's come in, what's gone out, and we can hopefully over the next months and years take this to the next level onto which it belongs.